The reason cross-platform is important is because of the consumer's behavior. And my job is to follow the consumer and to follow how they're consuming video content across all platforms. And just to define it, when we talk about cross-platform, I'm referring to linear TV, I'm referring to PCs and laptops, I'm referring to tablets, and I'm referring to smartphones. So those are the four basic platforms. And what we found is that there's just an enormous change in how consumers are consuming media over time. And so the ability to follow that is now become not just interesting, but critical. So for example, right now, we really haven't gotten to a point where cross-platform is in the currency, the way in which we transact business. And we know that an average NBC program in a week, somewhere between, depending upon the show, 15% and 35% of the viewing to that episode, and I mean full episode viewing, not clips, is not being captured by Nielsen right now and is not going into the currency. And to give you a sense of what that means, some of our programs like Blacklist and Blind Spot, we're losing well over 1 million 18 to 49 viewers, and that's pretty significant. And again, the reason this is happening is that consumers are adopting entirely different behaviors. I mean, to say it's disruptive is, kind of almost like not even doing it justice. It used to be that, people who would be behaving this way, watching in different kinds of, platforms, would be young early adopters. But what I'm talking about now is not confined to, people who are 25 years old, wear black, and live in Williamsburg. I mean, these are people who are mainstream, and they've come to understand that it's all about time shifting, that time shifting is the way that they want to consume television. So for example, we found that over 40% of people say to us that even if I'm available to watch a program live, I would prefer to time shift it because they want the control, they want the ability to watch it any way they want to watch it. And that's fine with us as long as we get credit for the viewing. And until we have a complete, sort of cross-platform solution, we're not going to be getting that credit. Now again, I want to be fair to Nielsen. They've come a long way. And I do think that there's some light at the end of this tunnel. But right now, we still have some issues with respect to getting credit for all the viewing that's going on. And by the way, Nielsen at this point, and the industry, has sort of said that we'll be, giving credit to viewing for the first 7 days. Well, one of the things that we've learned has been that the long tail of viewing has become extraordinary. In other words, forget 7 days, forget 14 days, forget 35 days. We took a look at a program. We have a show called Superstore. And back in November, the premiere episode, went on the air. And we've been tracking viewing to that show. Well, amazingly, we found that, 120 days later, people were still watching that program. Now, obviously, they were watching it either on VOD, or they were watching it streaming, on NBC.com or on Hulu. But the fact of the matter is, they're watching that show. And I don't think anybody thought that just a regular situation comedy would have viewing, 4 months later. Now, how we monetize it, I think that's something that we have to all figure out. But it's clearly, that information is hugely important to my programming guys, because when Superstore premiered, its day after rating was a 1.2 in the demographic, okay, which is, it's okay in this world, but no cigar. But if you wait for the 120 days, you basically get a rating of a 4.8. And that rating is equivalent to our biggest show, The Voice. And so it just tells you that something's going on that, just the way in which we're measuring now isn't really fully reflecting. And that information is really important to Bob Greenblatt and his folks, because when they have to think about renewing a program or how popular a program is, to look at the day after rating now is becoming more and more irrelevant. And so that's why this cross-platform measurement is so important. And, as I said to you, Nielsen's done a good job. But one of the things that we feel is that competition's great. And so we've been encouraging a number of other players, and we've basically been working with two of them. The first is a company called Symphony, and they have a true cross-platform model, and they've been providing data, and they have a very interesting methodology that's somewhat different than Nielsen, which is very beneficial. I can talk to you about that in a minute. The second is a combination of TiVo and RealityMind. TiVo, of course, does set-top box data, and RealityMind is a great company for digital measurement. And they've combined forces to, again, do a cross-platform measurement, and we've hired them to measure the cross-platform consumption of the Rio Olympics. And so, again, I just think that it's great when there's competition, and I think that, you know, what we really need is for the industry to essentially, you know, coalesce behind some of these things so that, you know, the concerns that I just articulated, you know, begin to go away.